Hello, welcome to New Wave Global. And today I am joined by Dr. Mahmood Kazmi, who is a medical practitioner based in New York area in the Bronx. But we are going to talk less about medicine and more about his passion and pursuits. And Dr. Kazmi is the founder and the president of a nonprofit called the Auliya Council of North America. Auliya Council, i.e., the Sufi saints, that is what is referred to as the council. And, disclaimer, I'm a member of its board. So I have a real partisan interest in talking to Dr. Mahdi, because not only is my friend, but I share his mission and his goals with which he set up the Auliya Council for North America. So welcome, Dr. Mahdi. I wanted to start off with, ACNA or Auliya Council. Why did you start it? I mean, so that our viewers can also get an idea of your vision for this network, this nonprofit.
Thank you very much, Raza, for having me tonight at this on this forum. I'm a great fan of your channel, and not that you're my board member, but 9 o'clock Eastern time is a regular for me. I'll just give you a little brief on how this started and what the concept is. In 2017, if you remember, the shrine of our great saint Lal Shahbaz Qalandar was attacked, and that made me realize that this core part of Islam, or tasawwuf, is really under attack, and hundreds of years of a way of living and being, which in my humble opinion was the and is the foundation of our civilization, which when it began was a revolutionary message and still is. That compelled me to create America's first Khanqah. We are based in a small town outside of New York, Mahopac. It's about 45 miles outside of New York City. And at the Auliya Council Center, we have the America's first Khanqah called Khanqah Chishtiya Faridiya. I'm a Chishti by tradition.
And
And
Dr. Mahdi, please explain what is a Khanqah for our viewers. Not everybody is familiar.
Sure. So a Khanqah is a basically a center. It's not just a physical center, but it's an idea, and it's a physical premise where the whole idea is to deliver sustenance of all kinds. So not just spiritual sustenance, but try to fulfill people's needs. And then these Khanqahs traditionally in the Indian subcontinent have been completely non-sectarian, non-religious in some ways, because that is the way tasawwuf is structured, and that is the not only the message, but in practicality what the Khanqahs had been doing in the Indian subcontinent and still do.
Tasawwuf for the viewers is the Sufi path, the Sufi tariqa, the mystical dimensions of Islamic faith. So, Dr. Mahdi, this is great. And, of course, I'm part of your board and I share your vision. But I mean, Auliya Council of North America. Now, the
Correct.
saints are in South Asia, Central Asia, Iraq, and other places. And you are remembering them in North America. And why North America? Of course, you live there, you live here. But, what is the resonance? What is the mission that you are following?
Sure. So, Raza, just a little bit more about your definition of tasawwuf as the mystical aspect of Islam. I would just add to that, that the core path, so to speak, in Islam is tasawwuf, but it is really not just a mystical part. It's really there for the uplift of humankind in all aspects of living. So social, political, spiritual, personal. Most tasawwuf now is considered as a personal code of conduct and spiritual being and worship, but it's really more than that. It has implications in all aspects of our existence. So keeping that in mind, and looking at the South Asian diaspora or Muslim diaspora in particular, we came up with this idea to have all those values that are now being countered, and that was the basis of our South Asian civilization, which was non-religious, non-sectarian in some ways. So just to give you an example, Khwaja Gharib Nawaz, who was the first Sufi to be, to do a tremendous amount of work in the 13th century in India. He never really preached Islam. There is no clear record of that. So all he gave was a message, the core message of Islam, which is oneness of God, hence humanity, God's humanity is one, right? There was
Yes.
no idea of the ummah being Muslim only, but the ummah, as in the Misaq Medina, or during the Prophet's time, included everybody. So,
Okay.
so the other concept there is love and caring, right? So, what is human? The job of a human being is to love God. Hence, how do you express that? You express that by the love of his human beings and caring for them. And thirdly, and more importantly, which Muslims by and large tend to forget, the core message at that time and of Islam is the concept of justice, right? So social justice, individual justice, not justice, not just as in the courts, but justice as a philosophical and a practical sense. So, to come back to your question, why in the U.S. and why Auliya Council of North America? Um, you know, I think the diaspora is following very much what is happening in our home countries, right? So all the divisiveness, the sectarianism, the violence that we see, and violence, is generated from here. It's not just violence; is not
Yes.
just with a gun. It is
Yes.
against all, each other, and the tribalism and regressive type of Islam that has taken root there and is flourishing is also seen in communities here. So
Ye-
we thought that for to counter that and to make a place where all are welcome, and we are not only non-sectarian, but we are sect and tribe silent, on a very philosophical level. To us, these things don't exist, or these definitions, which are human made, which are human inventions,
Yeah.
are I don't find any evidence of these in our scriptures, in our ancient traditions. And
And the
so
corpus of Sufi writings and Sufi thought,
exactly,
hardly, there's no discrimination. In fact, there's no discrimination in most Sufi orders between Muslims and non-Muslims, you
not
know?
at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. In fact, so to keep that tradition alive at our Khanqah, we have all our traditions. We celebrate Urs, we celebrate Eid, we celebrate Holi, Diwali. I have Guru Nanak Ji's birthday celebrated every year in November. And in fact, very close, both in a spiritual sense and in a practical, ritual, celebratory sense, with the Sikh community and with the Hindu community here.
Nanak was a Sufi. I think we must never forget, Guru, that he is Guru of Gurus, but he was so much inspired by Baba Farid, the great saint from the Punjab. So, Dr. Mehdi, that is really remarkable that, that this mission, but, tell us what has been the response so far from the diaspora. I mean, I know that you have, you mentioned Mahopac, Lake Mahopac, where you've bought an old church and turning it into a Sufi center, a Khanqah, or a kind of a meditational place of both community engagement and worship. So, what has been the response? Are you thrilled, or you think there's more that can be done?
Well, I think we're just at the beginning, and we are now reaching a turning point in our journey. I don't think we've achieved what we wanted to achieve, but the it's a work in progress. So it's happening at three levels. One is the community level, where we have outreach to all kinds of communities. The local community in Mahopac, then the Sufi community in the United States, and then other traditions, faiths. I if you notice, I don't call them religions. I call them strands and paths, and I have the same definition for the sects, the so-called sects in our tradition. I refuse to call them sects. I call them strands. So
Trends, yes.
so that in some ways it has been very welcoming, both from the local community and the community at large. But there's also been objection and opposition, particularly from the Muslim community. And that this whole idea of taking forward the revolutionary message of tasawwuf, which is all inclusive, which is silent on sectarianism, which is actually silent on religion.
Yes.
So there has been some opposition to that. It's hard for people to make that thought and philosophical change from, I am a Sunni, I am a Shia, and hence these things are not in my identity is this, and it has been this for the last 1300 or 1200 years. So those entrenched ways of living and being, it's hard for people to recognize that there is this entity called the Khanqah, which also has an Imam Barga in it, named after my mother. Um, and there is no restriction on any kind of worship there. The only entity there is God and godliness. So there has clearly been opposition, and in fact there are a lot of people who just refuse to even attend our gatherings. But that's okay. We have
Yeah, people have, people are free to believe in what they want to and practice in what they believe in. But I do think that what I would like you to highlight a bit is also the image of Islamic faith. That is also
sure.
something here in the West and in the US in particular after 9/11 and all the Islamophobia. I mean, there's a particular kind of an image of a Muslim, and people don't know much about it. So, I mean, I wanted to hear your thoughts about that as well. How can the Auliya Council help in changing those
Sure.
perceptions?
So, unfortunately, it's not an image. It is actually, there is a lot of truth to what that image has become in the United States, right? So the images, there are these very parochial, sticking together people, most likely toting a gun and a beard, and
Hmm.
and highly critical and non-accepting of all other kinds of people, whether they're different in color, they're different in creed or class, and most importantly, religion. And that has become entrenched in society here. There is clear truth to that. We as a people are, I mean, like it or not, we are a violent people. We have become a violent people because of our own tribalism, and it has nothing to do with the West or America. This is how things are happening in our own countries, and that is reflected here. People bring those values here, but
Maybe
our
we should
faith
just,
is not.
yeah.
Uh,
I just want to add, Dr. Mehdi, sorry for the interruption, that some people, or we, I mean, I think we should hesitate to, because you and I are also talking.
sure.
We were not part of that brand, so I guess there's a more prominent, perhaps a more vocal, disturbing minority or a sizable group of people who justify,
Espouse those things.
yeah, violence. Yeah,
I
please keep
agree.
going.
Of course, they're louder than anyone else, so that loud minority becomes the image.
Image,
So
unfortunately.
so 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 how do you counter that? Well, first of all, I think you need to have a philosophical framework and a mindset to counter that, right? So there are certain certain principles of that. So number one principle is that you have to yourself have to be convinced that this is we have a problem here. We've been reduced to just simple personal conduct. We've been reduced to tribalism. We've been reduced to language, and that you really have to reshift this paradigm. So and I start from the definition of religion. I use Ghazali's definition of religion. He says, there is no such thing as religion. This is a path, and he says that path is a divine construct which has been created for the common good. That's it. That does away with these divisive religions. So you have to start with that. And then with that, there are 3 or 4 areas or frontiers that you need to work on. One is actually believing it and saying it out loud, that there is we do not agree with this religiosity. We do not we have nothing against anyone else. Simple terms. And then obviously community outreach, gatherings together on a practical term, and then recognizing that our spirituality is one, which I think to me is the most important part. So not just going to other people's church ceremonies or their synagogues and then saying, hum sab bhai bhai mein, we are all one. I don't think that really works. It has been tried and it has been going up, but we really need to recognize that we are one on a spiritual level. We are not just different entities with different gods and, because they consider somebody the son of God, so it's not right. The issue is that we need to be on one level spiritually. Secondly, I think a lot of scholarly work needs to be done. So there was a time, and I'm not saying it from a nostalgic point of view, but there was a time when there was a huge body of work which had actually solved all these issues. And particularly in the Indian subcontinent, so I'll just give you a simple example. This whole issue of people of the book, right? So up until Jahangir's time in India, and thereafter too, but formally in Jahangir's time, it was declared that Hindus are Ahle Kitab. They have a body of scripture, they have a tradition, and they have a set system, belief system. So what is stopping us from calling them people of the book? So these are all Muslim inventions. And if I just may venture to say that in our subcontinent, the majority Hindus have actually never, ever fought with Muslims based on faith. I mean, this is I don't know of any instances in history. So, we carry that tradition. So I'll bring you back to our Auliya, that, our definition of Auliya is not just our Chishti saints. Our Auliya consists of Nizamuddin Auliya, Guru Nanak Ji. I'm a great fan of Guru Gobind Singh Ji, a great philosopher and a great equalizer of human beings. And Krishna Ji, who's given us so much of
wisdom,
festivities,
yes,
and wisdom and happiness, so and fun. So our Auliya are not limited to just the Muslim Auliya.
Yes, yes. No, I'm so glad that we got to talk. And so I hope that, people hear about this initiative and they also give us feedback and comments and questions. But Dr. Mehdi, just quickly in the last 1 minute, I mean, let the viewers know, what do you plan to do during 2023 and 2024?
Sure. So, we this year we've started a whole series of programming. So, the traditional holidays, right? For the lack of a better term, holidays which are very symbolic of who we are and which tend to get people together from all walks of life and people of all faiths. Things like Eid, Holi, Diwali, Guru Nanak Ji's celebration, Christmas, Hanukkah. So we're going to celebrate all these, and then of course our traditional dates, which is the morning month of Muharram. We have a very traditional part to us also. All the rituals, the sama and qawwali, we are very big. I personally, I can't do without sama. So we will be celebrating these course. And then we will also have an outreach program to other communities in New York City and in other cities also. And we invite all communities to come and partake in not only our programs, but bring their celebrations, their programs to us and share them with us.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much for the
In
time,
addition,
Dr.
one other
Mehdi.
thing, we've also started a fairly large scholarly program. So this year, we will have our first Auliya Council scholar who will be a PhD student at the Hartford Seminary. And we have an affiliation with Jamia Arfia, which is now the premier Tasawwuf institution in Allahabad, India, where we have a lot of scholarly interaction going on, and I can tell you more details about that later. One of the reasons for coming up with this Auliya Council is not only to celebrate the traditions, the heritage that we have for the last 1,000 years from the Auliya of our subcontinent, but also to contemporize it and work on the issues that we are dealing with now, right? So what are those issues? One is the intense personalization of Islam, right? It's only limited to personal conduct. In the social realm, it is only limited to maintaining and being entrenched in your own identity. So I belong to the Ahl Sunnat, I belong to the Ahl Tashi, and hence everything else that is non-me or non-my belief system or non-my territory is incorrect, wrong, and they take it to the level of takfir, right? So all these things are human constructs. They are so to counter those, and of course to counter non-violence, right? The violence that we have. So how do you counter that? Well, first of all, you really need to stick to this immense scholarly knowledge base that we have that has actually solved all these issues. These issues have come up again because of the regressive tendencies in Islam all over the world, and that is part of regressive tendencies that are happening universally. So as you know, there is this severe rightwards trend of not only politics but the social structures and systems which are breaking the social fabric of almost all societies. So that is reflected in Islam also, the regressive tendency to just be your sect and nothing else, and not even look beyond that, or be completely blinded to the idea that Islam and the Ummah is actually not just Muslims. So Misaq-e Medina, which had 57 clauses, and the first 3 clauses has to do with who is the Ummah. It never says it is the Muslims. So it was actually the non-believers also, the Jews and so on. So not that I think that that can be transported here, but we need to have its contemporary expression. So that contemporary expression, and start the talk for that, you see, not just have it there as a scholarly concept, but to actually put it into action and counter this violence and these violent society breaking strands that are happening.
Wonderful. We'll definitely follow up. I think every month we should do an updated version of our earlier conversation. This is just the very start, viewers, and I hope you give more feedback to Dr. Kazmi and other board members, and of course myself. Thank you so much for watching this. Goodbye.
Thank you. I invite everybody to come and join us.